in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome to the Landing Strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Welcome back to the Landing Strip, brought to you by From Financial. After a second straight convincing Winnipeg Jets win over a team that was entering this one first in the NHL with an 8-2-2 record, the Pittsburgh Penguins have had a bit of a renaissance start, though a little surprising to say that after what we just witnessed. The Winnipeg Jets, this to me might have been my favorite win of the early season here, pushing this thing to 9-3-0 and about to get some big help on the way. How could you not be excited on this Saturday evening? Mikey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty damn good. That game was felt like it was tailor-made for me to have a great time watching it. Lambert, a little bit of a breakout, couple Kyle Connor goals right off the hop. I got to hear the Macarena 15 seconds in. This was perfect. This was a lot of fun, and like you said, the opponent made it even better. You know, we've kind of we've cautioned a little bit the Jets start prior to this with some of the games maybe not being against the toughest opponents, but they went up against the top team in the East in a kind of mini battle for first place in the league, at least for now, until the end of the Colorado game. It was impressive on all fronts, the goals, the offense, and who they did it against. So yeah, this was a blast, and I love an afternoon game, so can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I was thinking at the rink today too. I love a good Saturday or Sunday afternoon matinee game. Got the full evening ahead of you. We got the Jays game coming up, and my nerves are starting to get going for that Game 7 roller coaster. And we got to watch an afternoon game with a ton of future Hall of Famers and big league talent on the ice. So hard to complain about that on a Saturday afternoon in Winnipeg. Before we get into some of that, you mentioned a few things there. It was nice to see some contributions throughout the lineup. You got to see some highlight reel goals. Got to see a rookie's first goal. Where is Mikey's big takeaway leaving the Pittsburgh Jets game today?
So there was a lot of storylines that we're going to get to here throughout the course of it, but that's kind of really where I wanted to focus in on, is we were just begging, pleading, praying for anything that resembled a positive offensive outcome from Brad Lambert being on the ice this season. The Jets need some secondary scoring. This is a homegrown player that they've had in the system, and we've just been really waiting to see if there's going to be something. And we started to see a few little flashes of it today. Gets his first goal. Parker Ford does a hell of a lot of work on that goal. Gets his first NHL assist as well on it. So it's kind of nice to see two guys who, came up from the Moose together, have played 39 games on a line together prior to this for the Moose. So maybe he just needed some hometown cooking, some familiarity on his line. It was just nice to see some of the young guys linking up and making a positive offensive contribution. That's not to say it was a perfect game from Brad Lambert and that, this is the answer and, everything's great now. But I was just real happy to see him, maybe start to get the right foot forward.
Yeah, that's one of those moments you hope that Brad Lambert can build off in his career. Gets his first NHL goal, which is obviously a huge milestone in any player's life and career. Parker Ford, though, like you said, does the heavy lifting on this one. A great zone entry, a great drive around the net, and a great fine backdoor for Lambert to tap it in. Great to see the crowd, when it was announced his first career goal, really give him that positive cheer.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's one thing I hope as we get healthy there and he kind of heads back to the Moose, presumably, that he could kind of build off of this. But I did think this was a game where you saw some flashes, like you just said, from both Brad Lambert and Parker Ford, working off each other for a few other looks throughout the game. It definitely wasn't a perfect night from them, but this was a night that they looked more creative, and I thought Parker Ford was all over this one as well, with the effort we've come to expect, the motor, the fourth line grind, and when he's fit into that lineup. I thought this was a positive showing for him. And yeah, like you said, nice to see Lambert get on the board. With my big takeaway, though, I'm going to go somewhere else, somewhere I typically push against, but I think it's been very prevalent through 12 games so far. And my takeaway, especially on a night like this when you got Crosby, Malkin, the big names that are maybe at the end of their careers, though Crosby still looks like he could play another 3 to 5 competitively with where his game's still at.
Yeah. Unreal.
I'm going to go somewhere else with it. Through 12 games, I've often been a critic of the top of the lineup and their ceiling when it comes to the other team's best and going best on best. I think my big takeaway in the early season so far, 12 games in, is Winnipeg's core guys and Winnipeg's best guys being the best players on the ice. And I thought that was true on another night like tonight from the top line. Mark Scheifele becomes the NHL scoring leader momentarily, pending some of the results around the league today, at 20 points with another multi-point game. Kyle Connor gets the 2 goals, buries the empty netter to put this one out of reach, but might have scored the nicest shorthanded goal in NHL history with that penalty shot goal that he earns by getting on Silobs, who makes a really silly mistake and has to throw his stick to not have Kyle Connor put it into an empty cage.
I mean, is it a mistake or is it kind of smart? Because in worst case scenario, you end up in a penalty shot and maybe you get lucky and take that one away from him. I don't think he made a mistake. I think he did that on purpose.
The turnover.
The turnover. Yeah, the turnover was ridiculous.
Yeah, like, come on now. The turnover is the mistake.
Sorry, my bad.
And then with the top unit, a Josh Morrissey blast gets through, and Gabe Velarde starts this game off 15 seconds in with a bank shot on Silovs early. Between Morrissey on the back end and the top guys, the top line up front, Winnipeg's best players have been the best players on the ice in many of the games this year. And that's a big reason they're 9-3-0 despite missing Adam Lowry, Dylan Sandberg, and Cole Perfetti.
And I just want to say, Matinee Mark, my Mark Scheifele performing in matinee games narrative continues with another 2 points today.
It does. Ben Howard has a bit of a suggestion with Perfetti 30-goal pace once he gets back. Someone is going to have to shoot on that second line. That's what happened in junior when he popped off. And that is something we could see, hopefully. He becomes a trigger man. But I wanted let's talk about the Taves line for a second, though. John Taves, that assist to Vlad Nemestikov, who Vladdy Nemestikov, let's put some respect on that name, gets his 6th goal on the season, 3 straight games for Vladdy Nemestikov bearing, and he's got one of the better goal songs. You know, big Danza Kadura guy. Every time that song comes on, it just brightens the mood a little bit. So Vladdy has that effect on me right now. But Jonathan Taves with the IQ and the patience to stop up, watch the D come flying by, and put it on a platter for Vlad Nemestikov. I don't know if he's going to have much easier goals than that, but he nets his 6th of the year. Good for 3rd on the Jets. What'd you see out of Vlad and Taves today? And I guess Iafallo, who Johnny on the spot almost finds himself with 2 goals coming off Penn's turnovers right to him in the slot tonight that he looked stunned, ended up on his stick with so much time and space. What'd you see out of that group today?
Yeah, the move to wing has really done wonders for Vlad Nemestikov's offensive game. Taking the defensive weight off of playing center from his shoulders has been really good. It's something that, again, we debated a little bit who was going to make that move to the wing, and so far it's been a real nice transition for Vlad. And yeah, like you said, Taves does an absolute beautiful job getting him that puck onto that spot. You're not going to get many easier finishes than that one there. And if this is the the slow increase and the slow creep of Taves coming into his his offensive zone here, this is going to be interesting because this is exactly what the Jets need with Lowry coming back. And if Taves going to start getting on a bit of a roll, the Jets could have something going there. When Perfetti comes back, is he going to pop Iafallo on the left side, or do you think they're going to move Vlad to the left side and let Perfetti take the spot back on the right?
That's a good question.
I'm real curious to see who ends up taking their off wing, quote unquote, essentially.
Yeah, I thought this was probably the best game we've seen from a Taves line. Like this felt like a game where I wasn't watching that line get kind of hemmed in and then have a turnover and trying to look to create something the other way. This felt like a game where they were actually in the ozone, creating some looks. There was a few that were even just off, which is something we've said quite often. And that was, I thought, true for the top line. As much as the top line had a multi-point game, there was 2 or 3 really, really strong looks. I think of Connor to Velarde backdoor on one.
Yep.
There was another Kyle Connor look. There was a Josh Morrissey got it to someone in the slot there. This was a game where I felt the top line was just missing, making this an even worse game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I thought this was probably the best game from Jonathan Toews, Alex Iafallo, and Vlad Nemestikov.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I do think Vladdy getting out on the wing does take away some of the responsibilities. For one, he's not great in the dot, but it also allows him to really kind of get creative with the transition, where he's been using his skating off of Toews setups to kind of help that that line get to the other direction. And then Alex Iafallo, just the hard work, the simplicity, gets to the net, and good things are going to happen. This was the first game I thought the Jets had a real strong second line effort out of the group.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to see, especially this early.
And to answer Ben's question, Perfetti's 30-goal pace once he gets back, I think that's exactly what they need if they really want to be competitive and be making this push. That's the next step and the leap that they're going to need for Cole Perfetti, is to be on that type of pace.
For sure. Formally says I can hear you guys better.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
Formally.
I know Mikey took some time to look into that, so thank you for the feedback and letting us know formally. Outside of forwards, though, I thought this was a pretty strong night for the top 4 on defense. We'll get to the third pair in a second. Stanley and Pionk kept it really simple, especially coming up the ice. And I do think that pair is a pair that we've really seen do some good things along the offensive blue line, getting pucks through now. They didn't spend as much time in their own zone. I think Crosby nearly victimized them a couple times on a couple of shifts, but I mean, Crosby's still doing that to everybody.
Yeah.
I thought this was a better game from them, one of my favorite games from that pair. And Josh Morrissey, Dylan DeMello didn't flash off a page today, but this continued to be a Josh Morrissey creating some offense. Comes up with that huge back check early on in this game when 11 on Pittsburgh blocks DeMello's shot and is off for a breakaway. And Josh Morrissey gets on the motor and catches him in what looked like an angle that was going to be tough to catch. I thought this was a great night from the top 4. On Caitlin's point, though, on YouTube is what I was trying to set up here. Still prefer him over Schenn, but Miller does not look as good as he did last year. He struggled so far, and I didn't want to point that out because I've been hammering the Miller drum. Hasn't been great in the looks that he's gotten so far. I definitely prefer him to Schenn, but what did you see out of the decor today, and how would you kind of use that rotation right now?
Yeah, Schenn definitely hasn't looked as good as he did last year to start out here, but the fact that he looked as good as he did coming in so cold last year is an absolutely monumental feat. That's not something that's common. That's not something that's normal. You generally don't have guys who sit out for long stretches, come in, play 1 or 2, look great, and then sit for long stretches again, right? So the fact that he was able to do that last year, I don't know what type of, witchcraft he was using to do it. But yeah, this year it's been a little bit more typical, right? He's been off. It looks a little rusty. The decisions aren't as quick. But if he gets a run of games and continues to look like this, sure, we can, start to say maybe that's not the better option. But we've seen Schenn have a run of games, and it's been really ineffective to the point of being a bit of a detriment a lot of the minutes that he's out there. So I'd still rather see Colin Miller on that bottom pairing, get a run of games, and see if he can't find the game that we saw, make him, make him a player that we were clamoring for. See if he can get that shot through, see if he can skate the puck out. Those are the things that we liked, and I think it's still in there. I think we just got to give him the opportunity to get some, get his legs warmed up.
I see over on YouTube. Then there's a couple comments similar on Twitch I want to get to. I haven't gotten over to Twitch yet, but I see Caitlin sees the same. Stanley Pionk played their game of the season so far. It shows how much easier it is to hide 1 weak pair than 2. And it also shows just how much the Jets can tip the scales in a positive direction when they have 2 pairs that aren't stuck playing in their own zone. I thought Stanley and Pionk did a pretty damn good job of getting the puck up and keeping it simple today. We know Sandberg is going to come into that spot and stabilize that pair, and I still continue to believe, as I've kind of said all year here, that this team's going to really take another step once they get healthy and talk about a 9-3-0 runway despite missing some key guys. Preparing for takeoff is a great spot to be with where this Jets team has positioned themselves. Formerly also says Stanley is totally looking for another goal with laser focus. And I thought he was going to get one in that third period when he jumped and Neil Pionk found him on the give and go. He's getting his shots through and he's getting a lot of them lately. I could see him adding another one to the board here shortly.
Logan Stanley career year.
Yeah, it might be. Hopefully he cashes the paycheck with somebody else after it's all said and done. But hey, if we get a career here, let's take it.
That's right.
Not sure I'm buying yet, but today was a good one. But it's a couple similar comments over on Twitch I wanted to get to. Mike F1010 says this game was over 5 minutes in. Pittsburgh is terrible. The Jets ambushed the Pens like a Blake Snell fastball. And the Jays certainly ambushed unlucky, according to Blake Snell, and his fastball the other night. And then Choices TK had written in pretty much a no-doubter from the first 3 minutes of the game. The Jets ambushed the Pens. Pens didn't look or play like a team that was top of the league. The score didn't accurately reflect how dominant the Jets were. The combination of Silovs making some big saves and some poor finishing kept it respectable. Top line continues to cook. Comrie played well and gets good goal support again. The Jets have scored 5 goals in all 3 of his starts, which, hey, there's a nice change of pace for Eric Comrie, who I thought was solid when he was called upon on this night. The Jets do not have a backup goalie problem in my books. And Choices says, keep banking those points. Return of 17 on the horizon. Reminds us that historically, if you're more than 4 points out of the playoff position on November 1st in the salary cap era, you now have a 14% chance of making the playoffs. And the Jets are at the top of the mountain on November 1st. And they might just find themselves on another year-over-year, start the year in the top of the standings and go on a bit of a run. With them getting healthy, banking on this spot, they've really opened up some avenues here for this team to continue building off of what they did last year.
Yeah, the fact that we're talking about them at the top of the NHL table again is kind of incredible considering the big pieces that they've been missing to start the season. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's really a credit to the system that's been put in by the coaching staff and the commitment to it by the players. They've really stuck to it. And when it's working, it works so incredibly well. This is the first game in I'm not quite sure how many out of the last few where there was no line blender in this one. You had 4 lines that they stuck to that was, they were working top to bottom. The ice time was fairly evenly distributed. You saw your first and second line have a bit of a, like a minute-ish 5-on-5 difference. And they rolled. They were able to throw wave after wave at Pittsburgh. And yeah, the result was never in doubt after those first few minutes.
Yeah, it felt like one of those nights, 15 seconds in, when you're able to jump on a team that quickly, and then 3 minutes later, it was definitely feeling over with the Brad Lambert goal. Great to see that the Jets came out and had a quality start like that on home ice in the afternoon. And this was it's been a bit of a talking point lately with the second periods. They continued it through the second period where I thought they were the much better team than the Pens. Obviously, the Pens get a late goal from Sidney Crosby after Crosby it gets held up by Pionk driving the middle seam and draws a power play. Malkin gets it over to Carlson, who fires a one-timer right off of Crosby. Probably not Crosby's highlighted goal. Mm-hmm. But I thought this was a second period that stood out in nothing but positive ways compared to what we've seen from this team in the second periods lately. And what I like to see, based on what we've talked about, we've praised or we've pitched some caution. We've pitched that the results have been good, and we expect things to get better as they get healthy. What I like to see is they've done this. They're 9-3-0 after 12. You're hearing Scott Arniel kind of preach the same things where he likes the record, but they haven't played what he describes as Winnipeg Jets hockey yet. And they're about to get an influx of 3 really talented players to this lineup. I think all things considered, it's hard to ask for a much better start from this Winnipeg Jets team, and to hear that they see it that way and want to take steps to continue to build off of this, and they're in the process of building a season together. As a fan, as someone watching this team, as someone going to the rink, I'm really happy with where the Jets are 12 games in. How are you feeling about all this?
Even taking a step back, 12 games this season, last year, and going back to the end of the season prior, it really feels like the Jets have finally found their identity. We know what this team is, what they try to do, and how it looks when it's successful. For a long time, that was something the Jets, I feel like, really lacked, was a true identity. It just felt like we didn't know, were they a fast team? Were they a big team? Were they a score? Like, it depended on the different night. Now we know what it is, what their recipe is to be successful, and we've seen the high end of it, and it is fantastic. The high end of it is a President's Trophy. The high end of it is, a fairly deep, should have been deeper playoff run. It's we finally, I think, gotten to that spot, and now they need to cash in on it. It's incredible. These first 12 games have really, again, we talk about, building some goodwill with the team, building, giving them the benefit of the doubt when things maybe don't look exactly right. And these first 12 games have gone even farther in doing that now. It's a group I think you can kind of trust in to play the same way every single night and give you that effort. And if they can start to get some of their higher end guys back, it's going to be a real problem for the rest of the league.
Ryan Thiessen says over on YouTube, coming off of that top pair conversation, having Stan on the third pair still makes me worried for the playoffs, especially away. And I'm someone that would definitely like some insurance in case you were to lose a Sandberg or Morrissey to any bit of time. I would like an upgrade there as well. Scarborough points out Pittsburgh is a paper tiger, and I would definitely agree with that. I don't expect Pittsburgh to be in the mix come playoff time despite their hot start. Their old core has really come out of the gates hot. Crosby's up there with Mark Scheifele, tied in goals. Malkin's got 15 assists. Carlson's got 10. They're really living with those guys. One thing I'll say, that Kindell they kept, that they drafted 11th overall. Not very often you see a guy outside the top 10, never mind the top 5, stick in his first year post-draft. Really liked what I saw from him. That was I'm someone that's kind of fallen off with following prospects. It's hard enough to watch just pro as it is. I didn't know what to expect, but I thought that Ben Kindle really stood out for Pittsburgh. You could see why he's sticking past the 10-game mark, and it's a little surprising a guy like that gets through the top 10 of a draft.
Yeah, he really stood out. I took a peek at his numbers after the game, and the two lines that he centered 5-on-5 absolutely dominated their scoring chances. It's kind of interesting that that, like you said, a guy that's taken not in the top, few picks is able to stick so young and actually look okay and look like an NHL player. So yeah, good for them. Shout out.
But definitely agree that they're still a paper tiger, hey?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The thing is about that, they still put the beat to them. Right? If they went out and just barely scraped by Pittsburgh, you could be like, yeah, Pittsburgh's a paper tiger. The Jets kind of only got by. They went out and put it to them early and kind of stuck on it the whole game through, which is, again, what you want to do to the quote-unquote bad teams, to the paper tigers. You want to make sure that you beat the brakes off of them, and I think the Jets were able to do that, again, still missing their biggest pieces.
Ryan Thiessen points out Scheifele on pace for 138 points, 62 goals. That contract is aging so well.
Can I jump in here? Real quick?
It's I'm hoping to set you up here. So yeah, go for it.
We've got such good people watching the thing. I have some things here I wanted to talk to you about regarding the on pace for our top line. So that's perfect timing. Go. So we're gonna start with 55. So when I ran it earlier at the end of the game, I've got 136 point pace for Mark Scheifele, 61 goals. Kyle Connor, 116 point pace, 54 goals. And Gabe Vilardi, 88 point pace and 34 goals. Now, before we kind of go at if we think, where they'll end up on the pace, just for a little bit of reference, Mark Scheifele's career best in points, 87. His career best in goals, 42. Connor's career best, 97 points and 47 goals. And Gabe Vilardi, his 61 points and 27 goals. Big jumps from where they are currently. Do we think any three of those guys can get close or hit what their current on pace is? You said today there was even a few opportunities where they could have added a couple extra if things go the other way.
Yeah, they won't come close to where they're currently pacing, but I think they will culminate in career years across the board.
Do we think Gabe
Gabe
Vilardi
Vilardi-
gets to that 30 goal mark? He's on pace for 34, never had more than 27.
For him to get 30, he's got to stay healthy. That's my only question around Gabe Vilardi getting there.
Yep.
I could totally see with these starts, and this is coming from someone that's forever been a Scheifele skeptic. I think this is the best version of Mark Scheifele I've seen, especially like we talked about. Since Four Nations cut, this is the level of play we've needed from a center from a ton of time. I love what I'm seeing from Mark Scheifele. This might be one of the most dangerous players in the NHL right now. He's 100% got to be on this Olympic team. I could see him. He's going to beat his career high in goals. It was what, 42?
42 is his career
currently?
best. He's on pace for 61.
He'll beat his career high in goals. He's gonna flirt with that 100-point total that you brought up.
Yep.
I only had it at 98 plus. I couldn't go to 100, but he's gonna flirt with it there. And Connor, that 97 marks a high mark to get over. If Scheifele gets 100, I think Connor gets 100.
Yep.
But where they're currently pacing is just barbaric.
Bananas.
That is crazy.
It's bananas. To have a pace 20 higher than what your career best is in goals is absolutely nuts. The shooting percentage is crazy high. You expect it to come down a little bit, but yeah, I just, as Kevin Sawyer said, they may be playing less minutes, but they're playing more game. So they're getting a lot of opportunity. If they're ever going to, both hit that 100-point mark, I think this could be it. And one last question. Do you think this version of Mark Scheifele is better than the 2017 version of Mark Scheifele? That 2017, 2018, the one that we saw him fight at the top of the league?
The second half that year, Mark Scheifele was so damn good. This is the best he's been since. I might say this is the best Mark Scheifele we've seen right now. Since the Four Nation cut, he's someone that's firmly a top centerman I trust. And it's been years since I've been able to say that. He's good, man. He's been on a roll.
He's possessed.
He's got to be in the top 12 on Team Canada, which is not a place I've ever put him.
Now,
this isn't me just riding the Jets' best player right now. He just started the month of October as the second star, only behind Jack Eichel by the NHL this year. He is on a tear right now.
What happens if he makes the team, though? Is there an emotional crash? Is there a little bit of and the game comes off a bit? Do we want him snubbed so he's got the chip on his shoulder?
No, I think I want him to make it, especially after all the hardship and the fact he's actually taken last year's cut and stepped up and earned it. I want a guy that earned it to be there. I do wonder a little bit if there's a bit of a step back once it gets named, but he is just on another level right now. He deserves it. I want to see him there. And Ryan points out the Jets possibly having two players scoring 100 points in a season is something I never thought I'd say as a Jets fan. And that's something we haven't seen yet. That's something I didn't expect. And it's definitely in range based on how they've started. They've given themselves a chance to do it. And that would be pretty damn impressive if they were able to pull that off.
Yeah, it would be incredible. And you'd have to assume that if both those guys are going over 100 points, the wins are tagging along fairly nicely, and the Jets are going to be, right at the top of the table the entire way through. So, again, it's always barring injury. You never want you can't predict the injuries. You don't know when that's going to happen. But if this top line can stay healthy together and just keep racking up these points, it's only good for the Jets.
A couple other things here before jumping into the From Financial Faceoff. Rob Somerville asks, is Colin Miller ever going to get a chance to get back in the lineup? He did play it today. We'll see where that goes. I just want to point that out. He was out there today. Scarborough 21 is interested in settling for an expiring deal Trouba for a third pair to replace Shen. Jacob Trouba off to his best NHL start in years with the Anaheim Ducks. What's his name? Quinville is getting the best out of him, using him as an offensive zone defenseman. Interesting to see from the old Jet. And I think my list is pretty small who I would not take over Luke Shen at this point. Curtis Weave points out, I think KC can crack 50 goals and Mark is playing a complete game. and it's hard to argue with either of those points right now and what you're seeing. Man, actually, before we get into it, I want to shout this out because it doesn't even culminate in a goal. But Kyle Connor trying to go to the one-hander was right at my end, right in front of where I sit. And historically, growing up, the one-hander was always my favorite move on a shootout or on a breakaway. It was the one move I tried to teach myself, and I tried to pull out of the bag. It's not like I was a skilled player by any means of the imagination.
Come on.
But it was always the one-hander was a play I always love to see. I think the confidence and how it looks if you pull it off are pretty damn impressive. And he was this close to pulling it off with a guy on him. So shout out Kyle Connor there. That would have been incredible to see.
Yeah.
Let's move into the From Financial Faceoff, though, and we'll continue on with some of this stuff on the other side of it.
Let's hit it. Right on. Phone lines we're going to be open here in a second. 1-204-800-0409. Get on the line and give us a call.
Yeah, and if you're in the chat right now, let us know your From Financial Faceoff difference in this game. What stood out to you in the Jets versus Pens game? What helped flip the scales? What was potentially missing from an aspect of the game? Mikey, let's start with you, buddy. What was your From Financial Faceoff from the Jets Pens Saturday matinee this afternoon?
You know, lots of ways that that we could go with this one today. A lot of different storylines like we've touched on. But I just want to give I'm going to give my From Financial Face-Off to Eric Comrie and the run support that he's finally getting. It's nice to see that you've got a sure thing essentially as your backup goalie, a guy that's going to give you a calm presence. He's going to go out there, play his game, and generally not be the reason you lose a game. It's not saying he's going to go out and win every single one of his starts, but for the most part, Comrie's not being the one to cost you any of the losses that he took, especially last year. And it's really good that they're finally able to give him a little bit of run support, a little bit of wiggle room. He doesn't have to be perfect. He can take a little bit of stress off his shoulders and just play the game that he's most successful at. So, yeah, I'm gonna focus in on Eric Comrie and just be real happy that we've got him back there. One of the safer options when it comes to the backup goalies.
Okay, I like that one. It's not something we get to talk about often, but yeah, Eric Comrie, after having historically low run support in the back half of last year, is getting 5 goals a game, and that is great to see from this Winnipeg Jets team. We got some From Financial Faceoff submissions over on YouTube. Let's get into them. Turd Ferguson's From Financial Faceoff is the hot start, with Ryan Thiessen's having a true second line performance from the guys on that line. I like that today. I think seeing what you saw from the second pair and the second line was a good reminder of what this can kind of look like when the Jets do get performances from a top 6 and a top 4, and they're about to get pieces that are going to add consistency to that side of the game. So I like that one from Ryan Thiessen and something to consider leaving this one. Curtis Weeb's From Financial Faceoff was Parker Ford driving the net and setting up Lambert for his first goal. We talked about that off the rip. Nice to see Lambert get on the board, and we're hoping that builds some confidence. But Parker Ford definitely deserves all the credit for the hard work, the hard net driving, getting to the net front on that wrap. Great shout out from Curtis Weeb there. Formerly's From Financial Faceoff was tough today. Lambert woke up after scoring. He made some delicious passes after that. Not selfish at all.
Yeah, there was a moment in the third, right, where he kind of sets Parker Ford up almost on a mirror play to the one that he scored on earlier. So a little bit of connection there cooking with those two. That's a good call, formerly.
In the second period, too, we saw him stop up in the circle and go cross ice to Parker Ford on the other side, who got a shot off from a bit further out than probably where we would expect Parker Ford to score. But we definitely saw a bit of a connection between those two and some nice give and goes to create some good looks. I like that. Caitlin's From Financial Faceoff is the first line continues to dominate, which I think has been a big aspect to this start.
Huge.
In general. Huge aspect to this start. Rob Somerville, what stood out to him in this game today was that the entire team stood up for each other throughout the entire game for the full 60 minutes. Definitely made Comrie's job easier, in which choices TK also mentions on Comrie with how well Comrie has played with his popularity in the room. When do we see a Comrie extension since he's a UFA? I think that'll be an easy one that they wait out into the offseason. I don't think there's going to be very much trouble with that negotiation. I imagine the Jets have a quality backup here in Eric Comrie as long as he wants to be here with how well he fits into this.
Yep.
Not a contract I'd be stressing too much. That being said, my From Financial Faceoff was along the same lines as Turd Ferguson. We know over this last couple of years, when the Jets score first, the Jets are one of the most toughest teams in the NHL to beat. They seem to really find their rhythm and control games with the lead as good, if not better, than everyone in this league. And they get on the board not once, but twice in the first 3 minutes, and it felt like cruise control there. My From Financial Faceoff difference is going to be the hot start offensively for the Winnipeg Jets. We get a Macarena party 15 seconds in. We get a first career goal 3 minutes in, and then it's all smooth sailing from there. A hot start for the Winnipeg Jets is my From Financial difference on this night. Late entry from Choices TK was Arneal having the team ready and actually trying some different combos, giving young guys some games. Seems like he's more comfortable after last year's success. And this is an aspect I've liked to see from the coaching staff. We've seen the specialty teams, which I think is very much coaching influence and systematic, come off to hot starts, which is a credit to how the Jets have prepared the team in both those avenues.
Yep.
And we've seen a more flexible group with integrating young players, but also switching up the lineup when they weren't seeing things early from the middle six. I think the coaching staff deserves some credit, and I think that's a great shout out from Choices on their influence on the 9-3-0 start.
100% agree.
Let's move over to Curtis Weeb, who says, I'm sure you guys have touched on this many times, which, yeah, he's a popular topic this year. But what are your thoughts on Taves' start? Give us your whole thoughts so far, 12 games in, on Johnny Taves.
I think it's been a positive start. He's slowly been working his way up in terms of the minutes played, in terms of the positions that he's been put into. We've talked about how there hasn't been any real chemistry up until these last couple games with really any winger, any line mates. So he's kind of been not only, finding his NHL legs again, but doing it with different wingers, different situations. It feels like now that we're slowly settling into maybe a little bit more of a predictable pattern. There's a connection right now with Vlad that seems to be working real nicely. The progress that he's made, I think, has been nothing but positive so far. Again, do I think he is the absolute answer to be the 2C playing, the second most minutes in offensive situations for a deep playoff run? Probably still not. No, that's not really the route I'm ready to say that's, where he's at. But is he looking like he's going to be a really good, higher end third line center on a team that has, one of those kind of already? Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And if we can maybe get an offensive connection with Cole Perfetti, then I think we're going to be talking about maybe a different situation. So I like the start. I like where it's going. And I still feel like there is a lot of room to grow, especially if we can find him a consistent offensive line mate.
Yeah, I think for me personally, where he's been at early this season is at a higher level than I would have expected early on. I'm kind of with you, Mikey, where I don't think we've seen a 2C yet, but we've seen a very comfortable and competent middle six NHLer. We've seen the high IQ on display quite often. There's something, and I was texting a buddy that was watching the game today who said, hey man, is it just me or is it very easy to gravitate to John Taves and just want to watch where he goes on the ice, because he's one of those guys that you could tell ends up in the right place at the right time quite often. He's someone that reads the game very well. I think we've seen a lot of quality looks offensively that have come off of his stick. We see it today with a gorgeous assist on the Vlad goal. There's been times on the other end where you've seen that the pace has been a bit troubled for him, and that was to be expected. I don't think we are ever going to see a finished product in October, but I like to see where this is trended. I like where his game's going, and yeah, like you, I want to see how Perfetti works beside him, which was going to be the duo we were looking for. So I think it's been mostly positive. There's been some games and times where he does look like he's behind the play. The puck dies on his stick occasionally, and these were all parts of what I expected to see. And I think early on he's ahead of where I expected, and I'm optimistic about where his game continues to go as this season goes on. I think watching him today, where we're talking about this is probably the best game we've seen from the second line with Iafallo and Vlad. I think what's good about how today comes off of is it was his 5th game in 8 days, and then when he had left the NHL previously, it was that bounce back between games that he was having trouble recovering within.
Yep.
This was quite the grind for a guy like that coming back after nearly 3 years off. And we see arguably his best game of that stretch come on the back half of it. I think there's a lot of encouraging things going on with Jonathan Toews and where this story continues to develop for the Jets.
Yep, exactly. It makes sense to be, like as Caitlin says over on YouTube, he's looked good individually, but maybe still looking for some line mates that he really clicks with. She's also a little worried about how sustainable it is for him to be playing the amount of minutes he is. And I think that's why Adam Lowry coming back and assuming more of a second line center role to eat up those big minutes, those tough minutes, will just benefit Toews. It'll take a little bit off of his plate in that aspect and allow him to feast on some easier matchups when it comes to line matching. So it probably isn't sustainable for him, like we've said, to be playing second line center minutes right now for all 82 games. But if they can squeeze these early games with some good, some real good play from him, and then give him the chance to kind of maybe take a little bit of a back seat once Lowry is back, I think will just benefit his overall game.
Yeah, I think he's really shown well in the crowded areas of the ice. He's still so physically dominant along the walls and in battles and in the face-off circle. I think the open ice side of the game is a bit to be expected and a bit of a struggle at times. But yeah, I think overwhelmingly positive this early on, considering what he was battling back from. Taryn Ferguson says, and this is a good joke here, I need the laughs right now, I think we should skip the Jays game and start here and stay here and discuss whether Stanley has passed Sandberg on the depth chart. What do you think of that, Mikey? Stanley passed Sandberg on the depth chart.
We don't need to skip the Jays game. It's a short discussion. No, next.
Yeah, the Jays are still an hour out. I can't even discuss that one that long.
No, we're done.
I think we take the positive moments. We see him settle into a third pair, ideally with Colin Miller and not Luke Shen, and we take the positives and run from the early season there.
Yep.
Excited, though. I will say I'm excited to see where this team's at. Later this month, we enter November. Lowry's right around the corner. Sandberg and Perfetti likely within a couple weeks. They're going on a lengthy road trip here. The next home game's not till the 18th, eh?
Yeah, next home game's not until the 18th.
That's moving day for old Nick, so we might have to figure something out around the show that day.
We'll make it work.
But yeah, no home game. So they're going to go on quite the lengthy road trip here. That'll be a test for them, but they enter it 9-3-0, and they're going to get help along the way. This team's doing some good things for us right out of the gate. It could be a lot worse, that's for sure.
So Lowry is right around the corner. He could be back at any game, now from this point on. Do you think we see either of the other two before the end of this long road trip, or do you think November 18th back at home is maybe when we see Perfetti and Sandberg join the main squad?
I think they mentioned that there's a chance Perfetti gets back during the trip, and maybe Sandberg when they get back from it. I'm just happy to see that they're around the corner, and it's not like it's the biggest gauntlet of a road trip. You got the Kings, the Sharks, the Ducks, who maybe the Ducks get in here. Leo Carlson's having a great start.
Yep.
They got the coach, as controversial as he is. They got the coach getting some good performances there. You got the Canucks on this road trip. You got the Kraken, and you got the Flames. Not too daunting of a road trip. I'm curious to see how they manage the returns from the injuries. But Lowry we'll see back, and maybe Perfetti, I'm guessing.
Yeah, sounds good.
What do you think?
Yeah, Lowry for sure we're going to be seeing here any game now. I'm wondering if I guess it all depends on what the results are, but I think for the most part, I'm guessing we see both at the end of the road trip, especially if they're not really needing them, if they're racking up a few of these wins on this long road trip, because like you said, it's not like a murderer's row that we're facing down here. If they come out, towards the end of the road trip and they're, well ahead, I think they both get maybe held off until they're back at home, get a full look at them and join the squad, but hard to say.
Formerly over on YouTube has a convo they would like us to discuss. They go back and say, I would love to talk about how dangerous and motivated Connor is on the PK, not only because of this game, and also says, if I am wrong, it may have been overlooked. Connor is the top PKer. He chases everything. It's amazing to watch him on the PK. What have you seen from Kyle Connor on the Winnipeg Jets? Power kill? Penalty kill? Power kill?
It's the power kill. When Scheifele and Connor are out there, it's the power kill. I mentioned earlier on some other shows that this was done out of necessity, right? As cool as the power kill is, I think that was meant to be more of a situational, tool in the toolbox, a secret weapon they can pull out against, certain power plays. We've had to see it a lot in these first 12 games, I think strictly out of necessity. You've lost some of your biggest...
It's part of the game plan.
I don't think you would have seen them nearly as much if you have Adam Lowry and Dylan Sandberg available. I don't think they're playing nearly as many penalty minutes as we would have seen over these first 12. I think it's a little out of necessity. So I'm wondering if that is going to get cut back once those guys are back and they play a little bit more of a traditional, penalty kill. Or, because, it was mentioned on the broadcast today, the top line, especially in a big win like this, didn't go over 20 minutes. They were, kept the minutes down, which allows them to be in more situations. If the Jets are still rolling 4 lines once everybody's healthy like this, then maybe it does stick around and they get to keep using it. But I'm just, it's been incredibly effective and fun to watch. I'm curious if they're going to keep going to it once they've got a full slate of penalty killers.
Yeah, Caitlin points out it's been a league-wide trend. Trent McDray is playing PK minutes for Edmonton. I want to focus on Connor specifically because I see what Formerly is saying. Connor is a dangerous PK guy because at the top of the zone, in the D zone, he is so active with his stick, and he's got the offensive instincts to take and jump on something when he smells blood in the water, let's say. And I think he's been a real pain in the ass of the defenders at the blue line trying to run a power play against. And then today you see the effort to chase down a puck that he's able to jump all over and creates a Silov's mistake. I think both Kyle Connor's speed, but his offensive instincts and being able to smell that blood in the water and know when to jump a guy has made him a very dangerous penalty killer. And I do think he's going to remain a feature on this group, and I do think that's good for the Winnipeg Jets as long as he's not taking any clappers to the boots or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't want to see him blocking shots. Like Caitlin says on YouTube, Chenoweth has been such a game changer for the past 2 seasons. The Jets' PK system before him felt like they would just let them have the puck and hope for a block. And it was much more of a passive system. Even on the regular, quote unquote, penalty kill, they are a much more aggressive penalty kill that we've seen in years past, even when it's not the Scheifele Connor duo. So it's nice to see them, use that aggression. And then when you've got the speed and the IQ that you do in Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, it can turn into some of some of your better offensive chances on a penalty kill. And like you said, Kyle Connor's penalty kill goal today, definitely that shorthanded one's got to be up there.
I see Miranda Lowe over on Facebook's tuning in from the office. Wanted to say hi to the fellas. So hi, Miranda. Hope work's going well at the old office. Where do you want to go from here, Mikey? Did we miss anything on this night? Is there any Jets-related tidbits? Any thoughts going into this road trip? Anything we've missed before we go into the 3 stars and maybe let out some baseball anxiety towards the end of the show here? I do want to say Curtis Weeb, great point too, on YouTube, says that the Jets coaching staff is very, very good.
Yep.
In my opinion, this has been the best staff assembled, and what we've seen from them and how they handle the media and what they come to expect from the team, the standard that they've created in this city, and the specialty teams situations they've created. I think this is the best coaching staff we've seen in 2.0. That might be controversial. I know there's a lot of Maurice fans out there, but I think this has been the Arneal staff is the Jets in their best situation, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. The you can have the love for Maurice if that's your guy. They went out. He abandoned us and went to go win a cup somewhere else. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. So if that's your guy, that's your guy. But if you take a look at the assistants that were here over that span and compare them to the assistants that we have now, if you look at the results, especially on the things that are directly coachable, on the things that are, your specialty teams are the biggest spot, I think, that you can kind of gauge the impact of your assistant coaches. And it's a no-brainer for me. It's not even close that the staff assembled right now is the one I would take over any of the other ones in 2.0.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Let's
Except,
move into the 3 stars.
Nobody has quotes like Claude Noel. That's the one place that Claude is undefeated.
Yeah, maybe not the most the quote, not the biggest quote machine, but I like what they've brought to the organization from a lot of different standards here.
And the one last thing on the game today. Pittsburgh came in with the second best power play in the league. Jets came in with the top ranked penalty kills. So again, we got to see what we've been talking about. These specialty teams have a real good test against them. And Pittsburgh did get one today with 11 seconds left in that penalty. But I think Kyle Connor's shorthanded goal, just the whole play leading up to the penalty shot, I think that cancels it out.
I'm going to need someone to find a nicer shorthanded goal. That might be the nicest shorthanded goal in NHL history. First time since they've moved from the Thrashers. There was 2 on the Thrashers, but first time in Winnipeg that we've seen a penalty shot shorthanded goal. But there was 2 with the Thrashers. That surprised me, actually.
Both probably Kovalchuk?
No.
Oh, I'm surprised. Not Covey.
Let me see here. No, they both weren't. Give me a second.
Not Covey. Who else could it have been? Gab?
Per Jamie Thomas, who found it via NHL Stats, it was Eric Perrin in 2008 and Patrick Stefan in 2003.
Oh, Patrick Stefan. There's a name we haven't heard in quite a long time.
There's a name with some interesting back.
For any of the anybody young who has no idea who Patrick Stefan is, do a quick Google and check out what his best highlight is. You'll enjoy it.
That's a fun one. Hey, Colorado ended up blowing it and losing to San Jose in overtime.
Oh, beautiful.
So does that mean we're top in the league? Formally asks.
We should be 1 down, I believe.
There's that answer. All right, if you're still in the chat, let us know who your 3 stars were in this game. We're going to get out of here. There's a baseball game to prepare for. My stomach is churning. I'm feeling the same way I was feeling before.
So
the
nervous.
Blues versus Jets game 7 that we went to, Mikey.
Oh, God.
What's going to happen here tonight? No one knows. Psycho Max for Shohei Ohtani to start it off.
Mad Max, baby.
I'm nervous. Let's see. Who are your 3 stars tonight? We want to hear from you in the chat. Let's get into that and get on our way.
Right on.
Right on. Mikey, I'll let you start. Who are your 3 stars in this one?
My 3rd star is going to be a shared star. It's going out to Parker Ford and Brad Lambert. The kid line on that 4th line. I'm hoping this is the start of something big that they can start to build on. I'd love to have a 4th line that's got that kind of jumps, a little bit of offensive teeth. If we can get something like that going, it'd be real helpful for the Jets. So for a first NHL goal and a first NHL assist, the 2 kids get the shared 3rd star tonight. 2nd star, he was my From Financial face-off guy for the evening, and I'm going to give him a 2nd star because, again, I'm real happy to see Eric Comrie between the pipes, getting some wins, getting some games, making some saves when they needed it. Game wasn't really in doubt at any point, but, you never know when things can go sideways, so nice to see. And then for my 1st star, again, it's going to be a shared star, top line, right across the board. Everybody came away with it with 2 points on the evening. Gabe Velarde, 5 goals in 5 games. We talked a ton about Mark Scheifele and his pace and Kyle Connor and what he's doing. So top line, y'all can share the number 1 star.
So I'm going to start with Vlad Nemestikov as my 3rd star. Comes off the back of just Jonathan Taves' offensive IQ and creativity. very easy goal to score, but I thought he's taken a step as a winger of late. This is his third straight game with a goal, third on the team in scoring. I got to show him some love. You got to give him some props early as he continues to go off, and hopefully he's not the only Vladdy going off for a big one tonight.
Right.
Number 2 star, I'm going to go Mark Scheifele. Takes the league lead, at least for now, in points. Gets the 2nd star of the month in the NHL and continues to look dominant and create quality offensive look after quality offensive look. And number 1 for me today is going to be Kyle Connor. Scores a beautiful shorthanded goal off of a great effort on his end. Thought he had created a couple of good looks. Nearly pulls off the one-hander right in front of me, which is my favorite move. Just a gorgeous game. Gets 2 goals to bury this one with the empty netter. Kyle Connor will be my number 1 star. And I see on the way out here, formerly has Comrie, Lambert, and KFC as their 3 stars. I hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend. We'll be back Tuesday. First game on this road trip. Hopefully smiling because the Toronto Blue Jays are World Series champions. If you're watching the Jays game tonight, enjoy the roller coaster you're about to be on. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be
I'm going to be crying either way.
vomit-inducing. I will likely cry happy or sad tears tonight, so keep me in your thoughts. Enjoy the night, and let's hope this baseball game doesn't break me.
Right on.
Let's hope this doesn't break me.
Good night, everybody. Go Jays, go.
Go Jays, go.